You're Locked On Wild. Your daily podcast on the Minnesota Wild. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
What's happening, everybody? Welcome to a live Postcast recap of tonight's Minnesota Wild victory as the Wild beats the Washington Capitals by a score of 5-1. Just a note going forward, we will be doing these postcasts after each and every game in conjunction with some of the program announcements you may have seen on Twitter. We got some exciting things coming for Minnesota sports with Locked On. And so with that, we will be doing some postcasts here the rest of the season. And so let's dive right in. A pretty dominant win for the Minnesota Wild against the Washington Capitals. First and foremost, you get scoring from Nick Delorier with the empty netter to seal it. 2 goals from Joel Eriksson, 1 from Marcus Foligno, and a goal from Tyson Jost as well. Cam Talbot with 25 saves on 26 shots. And a very complete, very dominant win for this Minnesota Wild team against a pretty good Washington Capitals squad that the Wild were able to just physically push around the entirety of the night. So it was a fun game to see the Wild impose their will, and that's one of the more dominant efforts you're going to see from the Grief line and from the Wild defense. And so just looking at some things that we liked for this game, loved what the defense was able to do. It seemed like, and I'm going to have to probably go back and try to count it, it seemed like the Capitals had maybe a handful of clean shots that were able to get through to Cam Talbot. He was good, but the defense was as good as they've been all season. They were, as pointed out during the broadcast, doing a really good job of getting sticks on pucks in passing lanes and just disrupting before the Capitals had a chance to kind of gather themselves and get ready for their shot attempts. Pretty much, almost every shot that was sent down towards the net was either intercepted or deflected, which leads to, both teams had a relatively low shot count by the end of the game. I mean, the Wilds ended up only having 18 and 26 total for the Capitals, but defensively, it seems like this team is really starting to ratchet up the intensity and getting back to kind of that style of play that we know the Minnesota Wild are capable of with the added scoring in. We'll talk about Kaprizov and Kevin Fiala in a little bit. The Grief line, Joel Eriksson, Jordan Greenway, and Marcus Foligno. How about the tone setting that those three did from the get-go? I mean, you have the breakaway for Eriksson to start the game. Tyson Jost adds a goal moments later. That line bullied everybody that they went up against to the point where Washington was having to aggressively switch their lineup just to try to get some sort of different look against what this Wild team was doing. And you have a couple of players getting into the history books with this Minnesota Wild team in Joel Eriksson and Marcus Foligno, becoming the 5th and 6th players on this Wild team to score 20 or more goals this season. This has always been, the line that sets the tone for this Minnesota Wild team is the Grief line, as we like to call them. And on a night in which Kirill Kaprizov and Kevin Fiala combined for 0 shots, you didn't need them. This was a true showing of the depth that this team has put together, that your third line can absolutely just dominate a team the way that the Grief line did. And I know the numbers are just a number in terms of first, second, or third line. All of those lines are deployed to do a job, and 1 through 4, they did that here tonight. Some of the other things that I liked from tonight's game, of course, Cam Talbot looking good once again. Did give up the deflected goal right in front of the net, but the game was well in hand by that point, and just continues a great run that he's been on over his last 9 starts. 8-0-1 in his last 10 games, 9 of those starts. Just continues to get this goaltending back on track between him and Marc-Andre Fleury. That was great. Tyson Jost over the last couple of games with Matt Boldy out of the lineup. I have liked what I've seen from Josty. He did a good job with the goal here tonight and just kind of helping that line push the pace. And it brings up an interesting thought, as Brian mentions here, when the Matt Boldy connection is back. What do? Do you maybe move Tyson Jost up? Because the other part of the equation, Nick Bugstad has been pretty good with that fourth line with Nick Delorier and Brandon Duhaime. So the Wilds may have some interesting lineup conundrums that we'll probably dive into a little bit more over the course of the week. But for now, Tyson Jost, he's showing something that I think Bill Guerin was hoping for when they acquired him, that he's capable of taking on a little bit of an elevated role, playing on that second line. He's more than capable of it, and I thought he's looked really good over the last couple of games. Just fascinating, in kind of circling back to it, that you can get through an entire game with your 2 best offensive players, and it's like they weren't even necessary in this one. So just all in all, a very crisp and clean effort from this Wild team, and defensively, that's going to be one that I'm sure the Capitals will be frustrated about for a while, because none of it was easy for them here tonight. So how we're going to do these as we go forward, we're going to go through what we liked, what we didn't, and we're going to leave you with kind of a where do we go from here. And I will just talk a little bit about the power play. It just continues to be kind of a work in progress, and the Capitals penalty kill was pretty good. And I say that essentially a little tongue in cheek because the Wild themselves only took 1 penalty, and so they weren't super tested in terms of the penalty kill. But for the power play, they had a handful of chances in this game, and it's getting frustrating. It has been all season that it seems like the shots just don't stack up when this team has the extra attacker. Now, one of the power plays in particular, I think it was the first one, looked good. The Wild were moving the puck around. They had some good opportunities, just could not quite get one through. But this team struggles with even getting the puck into the offensive zone when they have the man advantage. They're giving up more shorthanded opportunities than I'm even remotely comfortable with. And so it's something to work on. Again, it's a double-edged sword with being as good as this team has been in 5-on-5. So it's just something to work on to try to get rolling as the season goes on towards the postseason. The penalty kill, I think, is in a good spot. So let's just get that power play up a little bit. And they've been scoring on the power play over the last few games. So the numbers are starting to trend upwards, which leads you to believe they're kind of fighting out of it. If they could just get some more consistency with getting the puck into the zone and keeping it there, then I think they would be just fine. And so we're 2 games into this gauntlet road swing that we were a little concerned about heading into it. And the Wild have won 2 games. Now, the next showdown, this is going to be a big one. That will be on Tuesday night against the Nashville Predators, a team that the Wild has struggled against this season, albeit a team that has not seen the new look Wild. And so should be an opportunity for the Wild to introduce themselves in a new way to the Nashville Predators on the road on Tuesday. So be on the lookout for a postcast after that game as well. But just getting into the swing of the Locked On Wild postcasts, and we've got more on the way. But all in all, great win for the Minnesota Wild. We'll break it down and more on tomorrow's episode of Locked On Wild. So make sure you are subscribing to Locked On Wild wherever you listen to podcasts.